That morning, an extraordinary crowd had gathered in front of the Federal Justice Building in Washington, D.C. The woman in the black suit, who walked through the doors, didn't resemble anyone else. This wasn't her first trial, but the weight of today's case was entirely different. Jasmine Crockett, a former public defender, then a member of Congress, and now a special prosecutor, was here to seek justice. The case file she held in her hand wasn't just any file. It contained not only a real estate fraud but a scandal intertwined with political connections. And this case would bring her face to face with one of the country's most controversial judges, Judge Howard Gates. Gates was known in the legal world as untouchable. Allegations against him had circulated for years in hushed whispers but were never proven. Known for his harsh demeanor, arbitrary rulings, and political biases, Gates' courtroom was like a graveyard for most attorneys. But Jasmine wasn't someone who surrendered to fear. In her eyes, the sanctity of justice was greater than any personal threat. At exactly 10 a.m., the hearing began. There was a low hum throughout the courtroom. The defendant was billionaire real estate developer Charles Lawson. His company was accused of illegally diverting public funds into private projects. But Jasmine's case wasn't just targeting Lawson. It aimed at the protectors of this corrupt network as well. When Judge Gates took the bench, the room fell silent. He slowly opened his files and, without even glancing at Jasmine, said, "Ms. Crockett," in a cold and dismissive tone. "Time is valuable in this court. I hope what you've brought is worth taking seriously." A soft chuckle rose from the room. The reaction, mostly from the defense team, seemed almost orchestrated to shake Jasmine. But she stood tall, without blinking. "Your Honor, what I've brought isn't just paperwork. These documents are evidence of a multimillion-dollar fraud." Gates leaned back slightly. "Taxpayer money?" he said mockingly. "That's always an interesting subject. Especially for political theater." But Jasmine's voice was firm. "This isn't theater. This is the day those who stole from the public answer for it." For the first time, Gates' eyes turned to Jasmine. The courtroom could feel the coming confrontation. And in that moment, everyone understood. This trial would be unlike any other. When Jasmine Crockett stood at the prosecution table, every eye in the courtroom was on her. But she kept her gaze locked on only one person, Judge Howard Gates. Gates, known for intimidating anyone who stood before him in his courtroom, was now faced with a very different energy. Jasmine wasn't afraid. She was there for the truth. "The documents we hold," Jasmine said, her voice strong and clear, "show the systematic transfer of public funds to a company called Lawson Group. A large portion of these funds were redirected to unregulated projects through fraudulent contracts." Gates lowered his glasses. "Ma'am, we're not here to take a math class. It's hard to understand what you're trying to accomplish with all these charts and papers." Jasmine opened the file and projected a document onto the courtroom screens. "Your Honor, what you see here is the original draft of a so-called contract between Lawson Group and the city's planning department. Page 2. The screen changed, is the altered version of the same contract. The difference? A $4.5 million consulting fee added. And your signature is on the document." A murmur rose in the courtroom. For the first time, tension appeared on Gates' face. That document could be forged. "It won't hold in this court." Jasmine reached into her bag. "This document has been officially reviewed and authenticated by the State Oversight Board. Furthermore," she opened another page. "Here is an independent signature analysis confirming it belongs to you." The defense attorneys leaned forward. Lawson's face had gone pale. Gates remained silent. He stared at the documents, but didn't read them. "Your Honor," Jasmine said, softening her voice but hardening her tone, "a courtroom's duty is to uncover the truth. Yet here, the truth is being silenced. And now we know why." Gates spoke with a trembling voice. "These documents are inadmissible. They weren't obtained properly." "On the contrary," Jasmine responded. "These documents were obtained by my office through a federal court order. The only reason they're here is because of their connection to you." A journalist in the audience whispered, "Could the judge really be involved?" Another nodded, "This is going to be front-page news." At that moment, Jasmine pulled a small voice recorder from her pocket. "I'd like to submit an audio recording into evidence," she said. Gates narrowed his eyes. "This recording explicitly mentions Judge Gates by name. The content matches the transcript of a phone call with Lawson word for word." When the recorder was turned on, the courtroom fell into silence. "We can't let her get her hands on those files," a male voice said. "It puts everything at risk." Another voice chimed in. "Don't worry. We've got someone on the bench. He'll take care of it." Gates shot up from his seat, his voice raised in anger. "This is nonsense. This is an insult to the court." But Jasmine wasn't stopping. "No, Your Honor. This is the curtain lifting on the shadow over you. The truth is out." And everyone in that courtroom now knew this game had an end. The storm was coming, and no one would escape it. The courtroom was silent. The rage on Judge Gates' face had frozen, replaced by a kind of helplessness. Jasmine Crockett slowly placed the document in her hand back on the table. It wasn't just a file. It was proof of the dirty dealings that had long been hidden behind the mask of justice. It could no longer be ignored. Jasmine fixed her gaze directly on Gates. "Your Honor," she said calmly, "these documents, audio recordings, and signed contracts make one thing clear. You have become a party in this case. And an impartial judge cannot betray this court." The room held its breath. Journalists no longer relied on their notepads, they trusted only their cameras now. Every lens was pointed at Gates' face, because this moment couldn't be described with words. It had to be witnessed. Just then the courtroom's back door opened. 2 federal agents entered. Dressed in suits, their faces serious, they walked forward. In their hands was an arrest warrant. Jasmine bowed her head slightly. This was not her moment of triumph. It was the moment the law spoke. Judge Howard Gates, one of the agents said, "You are under arrest for bribery, abuse of power, and obstruction of justice." A murmur swept through the courtroom. The defense team jumped to their feet, but there was nothing they could do. Gates' hands trembled involuntarily. I'm a judge," he muttered. This can't be." "That's exactly why it can," Jasmine whispered. As the officers approached Gates, he still tried to resist. "This is a setup. A political game. This woman—" "Enough," Jasmine said firmly. "This is a courtroom. And no one gets to call justice a game in this country." As the agents handcuffed Gates, everyone in the courtroom had risen to their feet. Some applauded, while others silently bore witness to this historic moment. As journalists immortalized the scene with flashing cameras, the slow but certain march of justice could be felt. As Gates was led out of the courtroom, Jasmine turned and looked at the defendant at the defense table, Charles Lawson. "You were part of this system too," she said. "And you will be held accountable." Lawson lowered his head. "Okay," he said in a hoarse voice. "I'll talk. But I want protection. What I know. It's too much." Jasmine nodded. "Then you've chosen the right path. Because this is just the beginning." With the judge's removal from the courtroom, the entire atmosphere changed. No one spoke from a pedestal anymore. Justice had begun to speak. Quiet, but clear. Strong, yet honorable. As Jasmine gathered her files, a young law student approached and whispered, "Ms. Crockett, today you spoke on our behalf." "Thank you." Jasmine smiled. "No," she said. "I simply laid out the truth. The rest was done by justice." And so, that day, it wasn't just a case that was closed in the courtroom. A system was broken. Someone who thought they were above the law had fallen. And justice, perhaps for the first time in a long while, was felt so strongly, so unshakably. This wasn't just an extraordinary moment in a courtroom, it was a turning point that reminded us all of something powerful. No matter how much the truth is suppressed, it always finds a way to rise. Jasmine Crockett's determination and fearless stance didn't just expose a corrupt judge. It brought to light a system that had long been shielded by untouchable authority. This story shows us how seemingly ordinary individuals can create extraordinary change, how one woman alone can stand tall against a decaying system. The silence in the courtroom, the applause that followed, and the tearful confessions weren't just dramatic. They were the raw moments that define history. This event was a response to those who say nothing ever changes, and an inspiration to those who wonder, what can I do alone? If you find inspiration in real stories like this, where justice, courage, and integrity prevail, please consider subscribing to our channel. This is more than just a YouTube channel. It's a voice for truth, a platform for those who've been silenced, and a space for those who still carry hope. Share your thoughts with us in the comments. What do you think is the most powerful lesson from this story? Hit the like button to help more people see these impactful moments. Because we're not just telling stories. We're walking the path of change, together. And every bit of your support makes us stronger on this journey.